Okay, we are live. Welcome everybody to the Rogue Hangout. It is Alicia Drew here, and I am joined today by Stephanie Park and Chris Brindamore. Did I get it right?
You got it right.
Yes, I got it right. And today's topic is the power of consistency. And this is actually a very passionate topic of mine. Every topic we speak of each week, I'm always passionate about, but this one in particular is extremely passionate for me to share with you today, as I believe it is the one piece of advice or idea or information that we can share with you on how to be successful. And not just within our community, within the marketing community, within anything that you're doing, with anything that you want to create success in, the power of consistency is going to help you get there. So with that being said, if you do have any comments or questions, you can leave them below this video, as we'd love to hear from you. And we're really happy to have you with us today. So the power of consistency. Now for me, the power of consistency is what I call walking the talk. And so many of us talk the talk, but how many of us really walk the walk? And pretty much I know what you're going to say, not many people. We always hear people talking about what they're going to do and this great idea and that's going to happen, and most of the time they don't do it. And that's what I love about being surrounded by successful, like-minded people, those you see here on the Hangout, because we actually do walk our talk. We actually teach people how to become successful within our industry, and what we're teaching you is what we're actually doing ourselves. We will never show you how to do something or tell you to do something that we're not actually already doing. You know, there are so many people out there that have amazing ideas. You know, I call them ideologists. And, you know, these ideas can change their lives, and they can change the world even. And what do most people do with them? They don't do anything. You know, that's why they say the graveyard is the most wealthiest place on earth, because everybody's dreams and ideas get buried with them. And we don't want that for you. We want you to get out there and actually take action, but not only action, consistent action on whatever it is you want to pursue in your life. Now today actually marks the 21st day of our 21-day blogging challenge. Funnily enough, within our community we host 21-day blogging challenges. And the reason why they are 21 days is because that's around the time it takes to form a habit. Okay, and we run these consistently, and it's to instill in you that if you do something on a daily basis consistently, it will become a habit and it will become part of your lifestyle. All of us on here are consistent bloggers, and it's not something we have to think about, it's something that we just do because we like to share our ideas and take action on those and share our information with all of you out there today. So, consistency. It's something that you want to do every single day, even if you don't feel like it. And there's a great quote from Mel Robbins, and I've mentioned this a few times, and I'll keep mentioning it because I think it's really great. And she says, she's actually one of the keynote speakers who I first saw in a TEDx video from San Francisco. She was a keynote speaker there. And she says, you know, if you're going to listen to, when it comes to what you want, if you're going to listen to how you feel, when it comes to what you want, you're never going to get it because you're never going to feel like it. Okay, and I want you to really get that. You know, when it comes to what you want, whatever that is, if you listen to how you feel, you're never going to get it because you're not going to feel like it. Okay, and for example, a lot of people want to work out, they want to get healthy, and they'll talk about it, but they won't ever take action and they won't do it because they don't feel like it. Okay, and if you listen to that, you'll never get the result that you want. But if you take action and you force yourself to get started, by the end of the workout, you are going to feel amazing. And that's the feeling that you need to hold on to. And you can take that example in anything. You can take that example in blogging daily. You might not want to blog, and then with our blogging platform, actually, it's great because our blogging platform actually suggests ideas and headlines for you when you get stuck. And that's what's really cool about that. But you know, once you get going, you have to hold on to that feeling of how it makes you feel once you've achieved it for the day. And it becomes part of your lifestyle, and it becomes part of who you are. And often people will get started in something, and they put like a time frame, a time stamp on what they're doing. And it's great to have goals. We all have goals. We have events every 90 days within our community. We all give ourselves income goals. We all give ourselves any type of goal you can think of, which is great. But if we don't achieve that goal by that date, does that mean that we quit? No. It doesn't mean that we quit, because that's a poverty mindset. We push through. We keep going until. You know, a lot of people come into this industry and they say, oh, how long do I have to do this until I get my first sale? How long do I need to blog before I get to this amount of money per month? And my answer is always, you do it until. I cannot give you a time frame on this. Success doesn't have a time frame. You have to be willing to pay the price for your success. And if you're not going to succeed, and you won't get the result that you want. So I really, really want to be very clear on that. And it all comes down to your why you're doing what it is that you're doing. Okay, you need to have that core desire set very clearly, and that's what's going to catapult you every day to remind you of why you're doing what you're doing, and do that blog post, do that workout, whatever it is that you know that you need to do to get where you want to be. Okay, so that's my little rant just to get us going here. It's a very passionate topic for me today, but I'm going to hand it over to Stephanie to share some of her thoughts on this topic. Take it away.
Well, thank you. That was a great introduction, Alicia. Well, as always, I can't come to you with a story, and this is something that happened to me, and it's a recent discovery that I made, and it was one of those aha moments where, you know, I cried because I finally broke through and I finally understood. And it took me, you know, a series of events. Actually, it took me a series of events leading up to 42 years of my life. And it all began around the time when I was young. And I don't know if some of you know that I grew up in a little small province of South Korea. And around that time, you know, Asian girls are not supposed to be hyper. Asian girls are not supposed to be outspoken. You know, when you look at Asian girls, we're submissive, quiet, understanding, creative, right? Well, I broke the mold. I wasn't like that. So, you know, since I was strange, my family decided to take me to, you know, get me tested. And then I realized that my IQ, right around, I think I was around like 8.5, around there. My IQ, I called my mother and found the exact number. My IQ was ranging from 148 to 150, which was extremely high. And with that, I had, at the time nobody knew about it, with that I had what's identified as ADHD right now, these days. So a lot of times people, I mean, my mother and my grandmother, you know, bless their souls, they try their best to keep me managed, basically, and they, you know, in order for me to survive, or in order for me to thrive in that Asian culture or society as a girl, I had to fit into certain mold, right? So I played a lot in my head, and then, you know, one thing led to another. I decided that, you know, I wanted to venture out into entrepreneurship. And then when I came into entrepreneurship, I met some people, you know, leaders within our group like David Wood and Chris Rushlow. And I realized, wow, I think a lot like them. So I dug a little deeper and found out that, number one, when you are not allowed to do something that you have the deepest desire for, you basically are chipping away at your soul. And when you chip away at your soul, you're basically numbing your entire being. And a lot of times when we numb, we can't just numb, we can't pick and choose what we numb. We either numb everything or we numb nothing. Okay? And then when we numb ourselves far enough, all that's left is anger, despair, distrust, right? And when I made that discovery, I decided, okay, I'm going to start having courage. And then courage, when I looked up the root words, courage basically means telling your story wholeheartedly. Being transparent, telling your story wholeheartedly, and connecting with like-minded people. And what best way to do that than blogging, or in olden days, keeping a journal, right? So for me, walking the walk and talking the talk means, first, I have to trust myself. First, I have to tell myself, tell that little girl who didn't know, she was loved, and I know I was raised properly. I was loved, but my soul was robbed, basically, because I wasn't allowed to do what I was passionate about, right? So walking the walk, talking the talk to me means first saying sorry to that girl. Like genuinely, honestly saying sorry to myself. And at that moment, realizing, what do I want? What do I want next? And then connecting and seeking out people whom I connect well with, whom I know I'm going to do better. The future is brighter. And when I have that vision and when I have that discovery, that helped me to walk the walk. Okay, so that's my version of power and consistency.
Awesome, Stephanie. That's a very empowering story there. Just for interest's sake, which part of South Korea were you actually from?
Actually, I'm from. Do you know where children? It's what is it? Tunjadong. It's where the children's park is. Very close to the children's park. And this is something that I immigrated here back in 1983. So I'm sure a lot of things have changed since then. But back then, there were, back in the 70s, there are a lot of rules about how the girl should be raised.
Yeah, definitely. I ask you that because as a professional dancer, I actually lived in South Korea for a year. I was the company manager and a dance captain performer in a show called Gypsy Moon at the Sheraton Grand Walker Hill. So yeah, it was an amazing experience, and I really loved South Korea. It was I loved the country. I loved the people. The people were just so lovely, just like you, Stephanie. The people that we met. Yeah, the people we met were just had such a nice, loving nature, and we actually made great friends with a few people, and they didn't speak that much English, some of these people, and we still were able to communicate, and I did pick up a few words here and there as well. Yeah, and I've been fortunate to live my dream and live in many different countries, and I really do believe that when you do that, your mind and your perspective shifts on many things, and you are really grateful for where you are and what you do have in your life. So that's awesome. So Chris, do you want to share your thoughts on consistency and how it's empowered you and what you actually do to create that consistency in what you do with us here in our community?
Sure. I wanted to start off with a few quotes I looked up. So I got 3 quotes here, one from the music industry, one from an athlete, and another one from a politician. They all kind of relate to what we do here. So the first one is, getting an audience is hard, sustaining an audience is hard. It all demands a consistency of thought, of purpose, and action over a long period of time. And that's actually from Bruce Springsteen. If you don't know who he is, he's a singer, musician. But that's a very powerful quote. I love that quote. It could have came from David Wood. That's the quote. The next one I have here is trust is built with consistency, and that comes from Lincoln Chafee, who, interesting enough, was a former governor of Rhode Island, where I'm from. So I was surprised that that came up as a quote in the quotes for consistency. And then the last one is leadership comes with consistency, and that's from Junior Seau, who was a football player. He actually played for my favorite football team, the New England Patriots. So one of the things that a lot of people in this business are building this part-time. So they hold a full-time job. It's something they're doing part-time, and it becomes a challenge to do what you need to do in your business, and the only way that you can really accomplish what you need to accomplish is to be very consistent and focused on what you're doing every day. It's something that is ingrained in us, particularly with the company that we're involved with. You know, we have these 8 core commitments that involve doing daily things every day consistently. One of them being blogging, and then reading and listening to audios is something that we're taught to do every day. It becomes part of who you are. So the more consistent, I think, if you look at anybody who's successful in any type of business, they all have some type of routine that they go through every day. There's certain things that they do at a certain time every day consistently, and that's why they become so successful, is they're consistent with their actions. No matter how small it is, if you're doing the same thing over and over again, you're going to eventually break through. I'm trying to think. I think it's Eric Thomas has a quote. He talks about chopping at an oak tree. He says if you chop at an oak tree randomly and keep hitting at it, you'll never cut it down. But if you keep hitting the same spot consistently over and over and over again in that same spot every day, eventually you're going to bring that tree down. So by being focused and consistent, you're going to reach success. If you're, I got an interesting story actually, and I know both of you relate to this. So, being a blogger, one of the things that we do is we read a lot of other people's blogs and we comment on them. So the leader of our company, David Wood, happened to, on his blog, he talked about. Do we cover income disclaimer yet?
No, we haven't actually.
Okay. Before I start to say anything about money, I just want to make sure that anything that we talk about, our results are not typical, and I believe we have a full income disclaimer below this video. So David Wood made a post. He talked about how to achieve an income of $30,000 a month, and then he basically asked for people's thoughts, comments, and questions. So I posted a question to him, and I was not expecting a reply. I mean, if you go to David Wood's blogs, I make it a habit to reply back to anybody who comments on my blog, but David gets so many comments, I think it's impossible for him to do that. So what he did do, and it totally caught me by off guard and by surprise, of all the comments, he happened to pick mine, and he recorded a video, and then he replied back and tagged me on a Facebook post, so I knew that he commented on it. And then he recorded a video, and this video, I think, is probably one of the best videos I've seen him do in a long time. And what he talked about was that most people in their business are scattered all over the place. They're doing all different things. They're busy, but they're not focused. They're not consistent. So he actually did a kung fu demonstration. He talked about you're striking to the core of somebody. You're always trying to get to their core. And he says you need to do the same thing in your business. You need to be focused on doing the same. You need to have a goal and intention on everything you do. Like we're having this talking, when we come on here, we've got a goal. I mean, today we're talking about consistency. But every time you do any type of an action, and he basically said your goal is to bring in 2 people a day in your business, 2 new people every day. And every time you do it, any action you take, you want to be asking yourself, is this action going to help bring 2 people a day into my business? So it changes your whole focus and your intention on everything that you're doing. And while as I'm talking, my wife is waving her hands in the background trying to distract me. I want to make you get her camera.
Okay, I've got our lovely cat Atreyu that's joined us here.
Trying to distract me from being consistent here.
Yeah,
But
we've got a very consistent cat that jumps on our hangout every single week to get seen by everyone.
yeah, my cat isn't going to move because I have a wood stove going right now, and she's very warm. She'll get up if she needs to eat or get a drink of water. Other than that, she will not move. Right?
Oh, okay. Cats are the enemy of consistency, I'll tell you that. If they want something, they will be consistent until they get it.
Yeah, that's interesting you talk about it. I mean, I'm not usually home during the day, but on the weekends, talking about cats and being consistent, she knows exactly, and she's a long-haired cat. Even in the summertime, she'll lay in the sun. So she knows exactly where to move in the house at different times of the day to catch the sun.
Wow.
She'll get up and move, and she'll move to the next sunny spot. All day long, she'll move from one part of the house to the next, where she knows the sun's going to be coming in.
Yep.
It's funny. Every day she'll move around. She's got the same pattern, and wherever it's warmest, wherever the sun is, that's where you can find her. But it's funny. Every day, consistently moving from spot to spot.
Yep.
So yeah. So that's pretty much what I had to say about consistency. But David Wood, as the leader of our company, Empower Network, I think is probably one of the most consistent leaders that I've seen. Never changes. He's consistent. He always says the same things over and over and over again, and tries to ingrain it in all of us. But he's definitely somebody. I admire his consistency, and no matter how much the company has grown and how much he's changed, he remains consistent in his focus all the time.
Yeah, and just on that, if you can share with everybody what was the actual question? I know the answer to this, but just for everybody who's watching, what was the question you actually asked, and how did Dave give the analogy of the answer to you in the video? Because I think what he shared in that video, the analogy, was just magical, the way he was able to describe the answer to you. So if you can just share a little bit about that, that would be awesome.
Sure. So what David Wood talks about all the time, and I alluded to it a little bit earlier, is he talks about your focus all the time should be 2 people a day. So I asked him, I said, okay, David, do you have any tips to help us bring in, what's your tips for bringing in 2 people a day? And I don't know that he necessarily answered the question directly. He started off, he recorded a video in his backyard. He lives in Costa Rica. So he has a kung fu studio. It looks like it's almost in like a gazebo off the back of his house looking down through the mountains. Gorgeous views. And he has a karate, I forget what he called it. It's basically a training. It's basically wood, right? It's a wood training device he has with these arms kind of sticking out and what looks like a head, and he's got this cap that he puts on it that he's trying to do his strikes against this this karate training tool. And as he's demonstrating his different strikes, he's talking to us about what we need to be doing consistently in our business. And I'm trying to remember. I probably listened to this video. I can't even tell you how many times. I actually today burned it off to an audio so I can listen to it as I'm driving too. So he talks about what we need to be doing in our business, and he basically said most people are not focused, and everything that you do in your business needs to be, the intention always needs to be, whatever you're doing is going to help bring 2 people into your business today. So if I'm sitting down, I'm going to write a blog. Would a blog help me bring 2 people into my business today? Possibly it could. So that's something that definitely worthwhile doing. It's basically saying don't waste your time doing things that aren't going to give you the results that you're looking for. So messing around, let's say, on Facebook or searching the internet or watching TV is not going to help bring 2 people into your business. So we talked about actions that you need to be taking. We talked about becoming a leader. He talked about doing things for your team on a weekly basis consistently, having a team hangout similar to what we're doing here, a team training every day, consistently every day of the week. He talked about using the system that we have to help people rather than trying to be the be-all, do-all for your team, steer them to a particular training module that we have in our business as part of our products that we have. He also talked about, he has a particular module that he recorded last year, one of our newer products, team building formula. He says go through that module again. So I had gone through that module in the past, but I'm going to go through it again. Actually, that's another one. I actually downloaded all the audios onto my phone so I can listen to them. I'm going to listen to them as I'm driving, if I have some downtime, if I'm doing menial stuff on my job, I can listen to it while I'm at work. So I can be in all these training techniques that David teaches. The guy is an absolute genius in my mind. And like I said, he's very consistent, and he's trying to teach all of us to be consistent in our actions too. Mm-hmm. Be consistent and be duplicatable are 2 of the things I think he ingrains in us all the time. He talks about he was very successful in another multi-level marketing company, but what he was doing was very complicated and it was very hard to duplicate. So basically all we do, we're very simple. What we do, we blog. Basically blog every day is the biggest thing that we do. Constantly learning. So he teaches learn, do, teach. So you learn a new technique, you do it, and then you teach it. And that's what we do over and over again. We learn things. We learn from each other. I'm learning a tremendous amount, Alicia, reading your blogs and different people's blogs that we read. It's amazing what we can learn because everybody's learning different things. They're exposed to different things. And by reading all these blogs, and you're learning things that you may not have been exposed to before. So it's amazing all the knowledge. And even like doing research for your own blog, you're finding out things you may not have known before that it's tremendous the amount of growth. You know, I definitely, since our new blogging, our Kalatu blogging systems came out, I was not blogging daily even 3 months ago, but since Kalatu came out, I've been blogging daily. It makes it so easy to do, to be consistent. I mean, you can crank out a blog in 10, 15 minutes if you wanted to. It just makes it so easy to be consistent, I think. And it's a very, very powerful tool. I mean, I think a lot of us have seen, just by being consistent with that every day, we're ranking on Google now. Our blogs are ranking on Google, which is ultimately the goal that I think we all want. We want to have, we post a blog, it's going to rank on Google, people are going to be able to find us. So, you know, Dave founded this company on that principle, on the principle of a blog. I think we got away from it over the last year, but it's definitely come back really strong in the last couple months with the release of Kalatu. Mm-hmm. I think I got off topic a little bit, but
no.
Carried away with David Wood. Very, very inspiring.
Yeah, no, definitely. You were spot on with all of that. Just going back to the video, I thought it was a magical piece, as you mentioned. it was he was demonstrating with his kung fu moves on the model. I'm not sure what they call it. I'm actually a purple belt in Kenpo Karate right now. So we call it Bob. It's like a dummy, similar to that, but it's not made of wood the way Dave's was. So when he was, doing all those blocks and all those moves, he was hitting on that wood really hard, and I was like, wow, that's pretty awesome stuff. And when he was demonstrating on keeping your eye on the focus, like Chris was saying, keeping your eye on that prize, and when an obstacle comes in your way, when an arm comes towards you or a leg, you move forward through that, and you block that, and you keep moving forward towards your goal. And it was just a magical way of explaining how to get 2 people a day into the business. And what I love about it is that you don't have to be a person who understands karate or kung fu or anything like that. It's a magical explanation of what it means to actually really be consistent, which is what we're talking about today. So, and if you hadn't have asked that question, Chris, he probably may have not made that video.
It's true.
So, it's funny how when we step out of our comfort zone and we think to ourselves, oh, I should ask that question. I will post that question. I will do that blog post today. I will ask somebody this. What can actually happen? And I think that if that blog post may not have happened if you hadn't have asked that question. So, which is really amazing. And something else, when you were talking about blogging, I really loved what you said about how much we actually learn when we blog. And I don't think this is spoken about enough. And I'm glad that you brought it up, because I feel the same way. I learned so much from your blogs and Stephanie's blogs and so many other people's blog posts because we read each other's content and we support each other. And also when you're researching for your blog, like what you mentioned, when I look back to the very first blog post I did when I joined Empower Network with our ENV1, like over 2 years ago, I looked at it a few days ago. I went back and I looked at that post, and I look at what I'm creating now, and I was just mind blown, really. I mean, I'm not the best blogger in the world. I'm not the best content creator in the world. But when I saw what I'd created in the very beginning, when I knew nothing about blogging, nothing about sales, nothing about marketing at all, to where I am now, I thought, wow. And back then, I wasn't being consistent. I was just getting started with things. I've been blogging every single day since New Year's Eve 2014. I think that's, I don't know how many days that is, around 50 or so now. And before that, I was blogging every now and again. But since I started blogging every single day, it's been unbelievable. I'm actually getting around sometimes 500 to 1,000 visitors to my blog. And I had somebody ask me how I was doing that. And I said, it's because I'm being consistent with what I'm creating. It's not because I wrote one blog post and then a week later I wrote another one. And then I didn't write another one for 2 weeks. It's because I'm consistent with what I'm doing and I'm taking action on that every day towards a particular result. And it's such a journey with blogging. It's almost indescribable what you can actually learn. And I often feel that people don't understand the power of blogging. They're just not aware of what it can actually do for them and their business. A lot of people see a blog and a website are 2 different things. And you don't need to have a website. You don't need to go out there and spend thousands of dollars and hire a web developer. A blog it's similar, but it's not the same thing. And you can have that, because I know a lot of people out there that believe that posting on social media is the same thing as blogging, and it's not. Our CEO, Jay Cron, actually was speaking about this the other night on one of our webcasts, and he was saying that the social media is the billboard, and our actual blog is the work. The actual blog is where your home is. It's your real estate. It's where the content lays. The billboard is not actually the content. So we use social media to get people to our home online, and if we don't have one, we're homeless. And I mean, there's a zillion reasons why a blog is amazing, which, you know, we won't get into too much today. We have spoken about in the past. But if you're wondering what this thing is and what Kalatu is, you can always click on the link below this video right now and check things out immediately and get going, because you will learn so much. I mean, I feel that I've learned so much about myself and you know, who I am and what my message and what my vision is through blogging. That's how that actually took place, because I'm doing it consistently every day and I'm creating value, I'm creating content, as is, you know, Stephanie and Chris on this hangout. It's an unbelievable journey to go through, and it's really an indescribable experience that we cannot really describe unless you get in and get going. So I'm really glad that you brought those points up, Chris. Another thing I kind of just want to shed some light on a little bit as well is, you know, often people get things started, and I spoke about this a little bit before, and if they don't see a result within a few days or a week, a few months, even a few years, I know that sounds like a long time, they'll quit. And David Wood, the founder of our company, he struggled for 7 years before he started having the success that he wanted. And now he's a multi-millionaire. 7 years. Now, how many people out there do you know that would consistently do something for 7 years before they got the result that they wanted? I know all of us here on this panel would, and everybody in our community would, but my question to you right now who's watching this, would you be willing to do something for 7 years or even 10 years, whatever it is, in order to get the result that you want? And I really do believe that you have to ask yourself that question. And if the answer is no, then you probably shouldn't get started. And I'm just speaking honestly here, because you'll probably quit. And I know that there's a lot of people out there right now that do want to get started, and usually fear is what's holding people back. You know, there's some of you out there that will click the link below and just get started right now and get going. And there's some of you out there that won't do anything. You'll keep living the same way with the same problems and nothing will change, because nothing changes when nothing changes. And then there's some of you out there that need to know everything about everything. You know, you want to know how everything works before you get going. And you don't need to know how a watch works to be able to tell the time. Okay, you don't go to the store and buy a watch and ask the sales associate how it mechanically works, do you? Well, some of you might, but most people won't. And most, you know, more than likely the sales associate won't know because they didn't actually make it. But you know it works. And that's what I'm here to tell you today, that this works. Everything works, nothing doesn't. The question is, do you work? You don't need to know everything before you get started. And if we were to give you all the information, all the books, all the audios, all the trainings, and said you have to go and look at all of this before you get started, I don't think anybody would get started. Because there's so much to learn, and that's okay, because we're on a journey and we take one step at a time. Okay, so you have to be willing to want to learn. I think this is also key. A lot of people want a result, but they don't want to do what it takes to get to that result. And when I first came into this industry, I was fascinated. I'd made a decision to shift the focus in my life from the dreams I was already achieving into, you know, to add to that. And when I, you know, got in and saw what John Paul was doing, I was like, wow, you know, this is brand new. And when something's new and exciting to me, I don't get scared, I just dive into it head first. And I became fascinated with the education that I was learning and the community that I was a part of and the people who I was learning it from. And it's been such a journey of growth, because it's not about the money at the end of the day, it's the person that you become in that process. And I think that's really key to realize as well. And it's, I mean, consistency, it's really doing, you know, I love the book The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson. It's actually what I call my Bible. It's one of my favorite books. If you have not read it, you need to read it. The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson, and it's all about doing the simple, easy, mundane things consistently every single day with action towards a particular result. And the thing is, it's easy to do, and it's also easy not to do. And that's why most people don't do it. Because it's so easy to skip your workout and sit on the couch and eat chips and watch TV. You know, it's so much easier to do that than to get up and put on your T25 with Shaun T and do a workout for 25 minutes. But the question is, how are you going to feel after hours of watching TV and eating chips as opposed to how you'd feel when you've done with your workout? And that's what people need to focus on, the end results. And, wow, I've been going on for a little rant there for a little bit. I want to bring Stephanie back out.
Okay, I'm over here.
There she is. I'm going to bring you back out. So what do you think for you, what is the biggest, like, what would you say in being consistent, when did you start to make a decision to become consistent with what you were doing? Like, what was the key moment that kind of made you realize, okay, I've got to do this every single day consistently? Did you have an actual moment where that happened?
Wow, my actual moment, it came from my daughter and my life experiences, but I think that's more on like a personal level, so that could be shared another day. But as I was listening to Alicia and Chris, I was thinking about how, you know, us as a society in education system, because I come from an education background. And I don't know if you guys have noticed, but every 5 years or so, we come up with the new education system. We call it a new name, but it's always the same trend. And what that is it comes from the two schools of thoughts. One is systematic learning, where you have to know the basics, you have to know the phonics, you have to know the 1 + 1 = 2. You have to have that systematic learning so that you can develop. That's more like a left brain oriented, more logical, right? And you have one group where you just say, okay, you throw people in an environment, let them be creative, provide all the information, and let them just go at it, which is like the creativity and the right mind oriented. But here's the thing. You have both hemisphere of the brain, and when one side is focused and the other side, when one side becomes dormant and the other side becomes dominant, then what usually happens is we call it the information overload, right? Or we call it the information paralysis. Your head hurts, literally. It goes through like a process of almost feeling like having migraine, okay? Having too much information. Now, when you're blogging, it kind of sets up areas where you can peel off and focus on what things you want first. So there's a saying, if you feel like nothing is adding up, start subtracting. So as you're blogging, you're keeping a log or keeping a journal of things, and you go back to it and you realize, oh, this doesn't, this is not working, so let me make a tweak. But in order for me to make a tweak, where can I go? And then you hit a wall. But in our community, where Dave Wood has started for us, we don't have to hit a wall. All we have to do is go to different blogging groups and look at different people. Alicia made blog about dance moves, and she made blog about being artistic. I saw Chris's blog about how to melt ice effectively, and I shared it on my social media because I was like, wow, this is wonderful, because the blizzard hit Colorado and we can use it, right? So we get all kinds of information, and then we don't have to be the guru, or you don't have to know everything. You just get key points and you share it. So basically what's happening is when we are in the process of being motivated to be consistent, we have to find that mid ground. where the left hemisphere of your brain and the right hemisphere of your brain meet together. So I recall in the Dave Woods video, he was talking about the core, the attacking the core, right? And when the obstacle strikes, you move a little bit and then make another direction to hit the core, right? And the bounce back rate. So here's the thing. When society is telling you to use only the right side or the left side, okay? Eventually that breaks down. That's not a well-oiled, well-drilled, greased system, okay? What you need is both sides of your hemisphere working simultaneously and finding the middle ground. And the best way we can do that is in a network. We cannot do that alone. We have to do that in a network. And the best way we can do that in a network is being part of the group that edifies. And one of our team leader, Aaron Rashkin, described it the best way. Edify, E-D-I-F-I, means every day I find you. Does it mean find the meat ground, find the core, and even if there are moments when you have distractions, there are moments when you're like physically drained, something happens. But there's somewhere in that network of group, somewhere in your circle of friends who will come over to edify you. I missed you. Where are you? And then we kind of gather our things together, we collect our courage, and we go back, right? That's our middle core. And that's what I wanted to share about.
Yeah, awesome stuff, Stephanie. I like how you mentioned about the left and the right side of the brain and how that works and how that affects our consistency. One other point I wanted to bring out, and Chris touched on this a little bit, it reminded me of a quote that I heard on an audio I was listening to the other day, and it's from Darren Hardy. He's actually the creator of the Success magazine, amongst other things, and he's an inspirational leader within our industry. And this is what he said. He said, in any endeavor, in any activity, in anything that you're pursuing success in, there are only a few things that matter. Don't leave the field of the few things that matter to chase the novel, the new, and exciting, because ultimately you'll leave success on the table. So what that actually means, a lot of times within our industry, well, I like to call it shiny ball syndrome, and often I think this is critical because I think that's what stops a lot of people being successful, because you cannot be consistent when you're jumping from thing to thing to thing to thing. You know, you see the next shiny object and you go running towards that and you think that that's going to get you the result that you want. As he said, don't chase the novel, the new, or the exciting, because you will ultimately leave success on the table. There are only a few things that matter, and often a lot of people will complicate this business and they'll focus on anything and everything and jump from thing to thing to thing to thing and won't get the result that they want, and they wonder why. Because it's not the thing that isn't working, it's actually you. You're the thing that's in common with that. It's you jumping from one thing to the other and not giving that thing the amount of time necessary to achieve the result. So I really thought that was a really powerful quote that I heard the other day. And another powerful quote I actually heard from Grey's Anatomy, would you believe? I do not watch a lot of television at all, but Grey's Anatomy is a show that I love and I've watched. Actually, I haven't watched it from the very beginning. I actually started watching Grey's Anatomy. It's a funny story. I was living in Macau, China, performing in shows, and I was sick, and I'd just gotten out of hospital, and one of my my entertainment manager had given me the box set of Grey's Anatomy to watch, and that's when I started watching it. The show had already been going for a couple of years, and this was back in like 2007, I think it was. And ever since then, I've been hooked on the show for different reasons. And one of the doctors the other day, she said, if you're not willing to keep looking for the light, even in the darkest of places, without stopping. Even if it seems impossible, you will not succeed. And I jotted that down in my notebook as soon as I heard it. I actually have a little journal and I have a note section on my phone. And if ever I hear anything or see anything, I'll put that down. So I was pausing the replay straight away so I could put that down. And I will read it again. If you are not willing to keep looking for the light, even in the darkest of places, without stopping, even if it seems impossible, you will not succeed. And I believe that that is critical. Oftentimes we do believe that, you know, we can get ourselves into multiple situations and scenarios where it looks so difficult to succeed, and it's during those times that we have to have the strength to get up and keep fighting. It's really all about, you know, how often and how much can you get kicked in the teeth and keep getting up and keep fighting. You know, if you're that type of person that will get up and keep fighting every time they get knocked down, now's the time to hit that link below this video and get started within our community. Because even if you don't believe in yourself right now, you've got thousands and thousands of like-minded people that do. And that's what matters. We believe in you even when you don't believe in yourself. And they always say that you are the sum of the 5 people that you spend most of your time with. You know, think about, you know, the 5 people that you spend the most time with, and think about whether those people actually challenge you, actually support you. You know, are those people, you know, holding you back, or are they actually lifting you up? I know a lot of people have excuses of why they think they can't be consistent. And one of the most major ones is time. People say they don't have the time. And I put something up on Facebook yesterday, because I work out 5 to 6 days a week, and I said, well, you're busy making excuses about why you're too busy to work out. Somebody who's busier than you is getting busy working out right now. Kind of made it up as I was going along, and I'm like, that actually sounds really good. And my point with that was, people are so busy making excuses that by the time you've given the excuse, you could have already done something. You could have already written that blog post. You could have already gotten started and hit that link below. You could have already done your workout. You could have done 10 push-ups. You could have, you know, gone and eaten something healthy instead of McDonald's down the road. It's the simple decisions that we need to make, and often we spend more energy making up excuses for why we can't do something. And your excuses are the very reason why you need to get started. You know, if you have somebody that in your life that isn't supportive of what you're doing, you need to tell that person that they need to believe in you and understand that you're doing this for them. You know, when my partner John Paul, who's normally on this hangout but couldn't be with us today, when he first got started within this community, I didn't question it. I didn't understand it. I didn't know what it was about at first, but I knew that it was something that he wanted to do. I knew that he had a deeper purpose and meaning in life to provide for, you know, himself and his family. And I didn't question that. And, you know, I know the spouse objection comes up a lot, and I will say this to you today, you know, do you have to ask permission to do everything in your life? Do you always have to ask your spouse whether you can go and, you know, go down the street and, you know, have a drink or go out for dinner with somebody? You don't have to ask them permission to do everything. All they need to know is that you're doing this for them. And oftentimes, they won't support you in that. But that's okay, because we're here to support you and help you produce the result that you want, because when you do, they will be on board with you so quickly. We have seen it. We have seen it. You know, if they don't believe in you, you get in, you get going consistently. Remember, it's consistently until you get the result that you want, and you surround yourself with like-minded people, and they will see your journey, and they will start to believe in you. I mean, I understand this objection a lot because a lot of the times people will say, oh, I want to do this thing and I'm going to spend this much money. And of course, the other person is going to kind of say, well, what is it? And you're like, oh, just this thing. And they're like, oh, well, I don't want you to spend that money. You know, that's the money for the groceries or whatever. You know, you have to be focused on what it is that you want to do. You can't just say, oh, I'm just doing this thing. You have to explain that you have a dream, you have a vision for your future and your family's future, and stand up and make this decision and be a man or be a woman and hit that button and get started, because that's not what constitutes a person who has to ask permission to make big decisions in their life. You go out there and you make that decision because you know it's the right decision to make for you and your family. So, I mean, with that being said, if there's any closing thoughts from you guys before we head out, you can take it away. Maybe Chris, if you've got any final rants there.
Final rants, just click that button below. Get started. Stop making excuses. Because you can either make excuses or you can make money, but you can't do both. So it's really, really easy. This new blog makes it so easy. This 21-day blogging challenge, this template's already built in place. You can start making money before you even know what you're doing. It's just that easy. So get started. Start blogging daily. Hang around with people like Alicia and Stephanie, myself, and just keep at it, and you'll eventually succeed. Like Alicia said, we can't tell you what the time frame is going to be. It could be immediately. Some people could take years. Who knows? I think about it. I was thinking earlier when I think it was Stephanie was talking about education. Think about how many years we go to school. All right, you go to school for 12 years, and then you go, let's say, to college for another 4. So you're in school for at least 16 years. And what is the guarantee when you get out? There are no guarantees. You may not find a job out of it. You may end up working at McDonald's when you get out of college because there's no jobs. Or you may take a job in something that you didn't go to school for. So you invest all that time in college, you invest a ton of money for an education, and there's no guarantee you're going to get anything out of that. So you didn't give up there. You were willing to invest 16 years of your life in education for absolutely no guarantee. And I think if I heard one of the blogs I read this week, there was a bunch of videos. One of them was Steve Jobs did a graduation speech, and he talked about how he was basically a high school dropout. He didn't really do good in college. I think he dropped out of college too. His parents couldn't afford to keep him there, so he decided to drop out, and he succeeded anyways. He decided, so it's really not the education is needed, but you want to educate yourself on something you're passionate about. Not necessarily what you're learning in school. Stephanie, hopefully I'm not offending you with education.
Not at all.
You know, sometimes the structured education isn't what people need. Sometimes it needs to be a little unstructured. Or you need to go down your own journey and find out where your journey leads you. Get exposed to people like Stephanie and Alicia here that you may learn something that you may not have learned had you not been exposed to it. I mean, I'm learning. I just went and looked at my blog. I was amazed. I've done a new Kalatu system since it started, which I wasn't even keeping track. I don't think I have that many. I've been involved about 1.5 years now. In the last year prior to Kalatu, I don't think I did 100 blog posts. But in the last, I think I started right around Thanksgiving. So it's been about 3 months and 100 posts. So I was amazed when I went and looked. So it's consistency that does that. So I basically have now, I've got 100 signs, let's say, out on the internet all over the place that could drive people into my business. And they're there permanently. If I was to stop this business tomorrow, all those posts are still there. They're always going to be there. They never go away. So just click the button below, get started, and the community that we belong to is like no other out there that I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
And Alicia, thank you for having me on again today.
Oh yeah, of course. We love the value that you bring here, and you're so right. It's we cannot guarantee results, but we can guarantee that there's no other community out there like us, and the people that you get to be involved with and be inspired by is phenomenal. So it's always awesome to have you on. Stephanie,
Thank you.
any final rants from you there?
Okay. I'm going to in with this. I'm going to kind of break a common what do we call it? Common myth buster, I guess. You know, when we are at our job, our management or our leaders always tell us drop the ego. Okay, but I'm going to say no. It's the ego that helped you decide to come over to this hangout today. It's your ego. Some people say it's that gut feeling, right? Some people say, I felt this feeling in my stomach or in my gut. But I'm going to say it's your ego. It's your ego that says, enough is enough. I'm going to change. I'm going to make a difference. Okay? Start listening to your ego, because once you stop listening to your ego, guess what? You lose all power and ability to make decisions and choices for yourself as well as for your loved ones, to protect yourself and to protect your loved ones. So one of the major consistency we have to hold on to with our tight fist is to keep our ego and say, when enough is enough, you say it, enough, and make a decision. And when your gut feeling or your ego tells you to click the button below, do it. Okay? And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Yeah, awesome, Stephanie. So great to always have you on, and it's so true. If you're a person out there that knows enough is enough, hit that link below, get inside, and, we cannot wait to, share our community with you. And, each week we come to you with a new topic, with new value, and there's people on this hangout that will continue to come and just watch and sit on the sidelines. And nothing will change for those people. And then there's the people that will take action and hit the link below the video and begin to transform their life, because we all deserve greatness. We all deserve to have the very best that we possibly can and be the best human being that we possibly can to give back to the world. So we'll be here with you same time, same place next week. We want to thank you all for coming out, and we look forward to meeting you on the inside and sharing more value with you next week. So until then, be great, because nothing else pays.
Bye-bye.